Hello, this is a contribution from Kuzu Console to the Algorand ecosystem by Stephen Sunday and Seth Michael. Kuzu Consult is a blockchain consultancy firm based in Nigeria. In this presentation, we will learn how to develop a decentralized application in the form of a web app using the .NET framework to create an online game marketplace where people can buy or sell games on the Algorand blockchain network. So right here I have my Visual Studio 2019 open. I'm going to go ahead and create a new project. So right here in this window section, I can see a list of project templates available for me to choose from to create the project. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the ASP.NET Core Web Application and click on Next. Go ahead and name the project your preferred name. Mine over here is GameIt. So name the project and click on Create. Okay, so right here we can select the type of ASP.NET Core Web Application we want to create, and in this case, for this demo purpose, we are going to create the web application using the MVC design pattern. Okay, so right here where the authentication is, I'm going to go ahead and change the authentication to individual user accounts to have login and registration processes already built in for us. And this is for demo purposes. You can just select the ASP.NET Core 3.1 or the latest stable version you have. The current version over right now is the .NET 5, but this is its demo. This is for demo purposes, which is why we're selecting the ASP.NET Core 2.0. So we do not have to do a lot of configurations before setting up our user account. Go ahead and click on the web application and then click on Create. Okay, so our application has created successfully, and we can head over to the Solution Explorer to see the files we have over here. So everything is appropriate. So the first thing we're going to want to do is to connect our web application with the Algorand network. So we're going to do that by installing the Algorand Sdk into our application to make use of it. So head over to the Package Manager console. Okay, so right here our Package Manager console is up and ready to use. So let's go ahead and run the following command. We're going to install package Algorand. So you can either do it from the Package Manager console or through the Manage NuGet packager. So everything has installed successfully. So let's head over to our project dependencies. Go to the SDK packages rather. We can see the Algorand over here, which means the package is successfully installed into our application. So go ahead and minimize, and then the first thing we're going to do is to create or set up the user account process, whereby when a user registers, he or she is going to have an account address and a mnemonic key attached to that account automatically during registration. So this was why I selected the 2.0 because of this particular purpose or reason. So we do not have to do a lot of configurations, setting up custom data model for user registration. So let's head over to models, and inside the application user class you can see it is inheriting from identity user, and our identity user contains the other additional fields. I'm trying to navigate to it so we can look at it more. Okay, so we can see a brief summary of initiating a new instance of Microsoft ASP.NET Core identity user. If we head back to the account controller and then we navigate into, let me navigate to the registration method. Okay, so we can see our application user is being used here, right? So and then passing in the username and email, because our application user is inheriting from identity user, which is why we have access to username and email, because right here we don't have anything inside. So if you might be wondering, where is it getting the the username and the email field from. It is because the application user is inheriting from identity user, which has a lot of other fields passed into it. So if we head over to register view model, so we can see we have name, email, password, confirm password, and all that. So inside of the application user class inheriting from identity user, I just added these two fields, which is public string for address and one for key. So this is going to pass in our account address, and this is going to pass in the mnemonic key. So let's head back to the account controller, and then we can then add our address. So before we do anything, let's above here, let's make use of our accounts. Connecting it to the Algorand network. So let's go with the using Algorand namespace. Okay, so having done this, you can see address should be account.address.toString, and then the other one for key should be account.toMnemonic. Okay, so having done this, we are ready to set up our application with the address and mnemonic key, which will be automatically generated and assigned to a user. Okay, so back inside of our application user, inside of the identity, let's go ahead and navigate to where it is. So we can see a little bit more to it, more like a description of where it comes from, where the identity user comes from, and what it is all about. So from our database, when we make use of it, there's a lockout in case you input your password wrongly and then the account locks you out for a specific period of time. We have the two-factor authentication, we have the phone number, concurrency step, password hash, email confirmation, and all these other details added to it. So by making an instance of our identity user, we're trying to then add the address and key, whereby the application user is inheriting from identity user. By this inheritance, this means that the application user also contains or has access to everything that is inside of this particular class over here. So, and then we're then adding the address and key to them from the application user to make use of. So we then created a GameIt class inside of the models folder, which then contains the details of what our game would contain. So our game is going to have an ID, a name, the price attached to the game owner name, game owner address, and game owner key. So this address and the key will be gotten from the user's details, that is the user's registration details, and then which will be then passed in to the controller when creating the game. The next thing we are going to want to do is to create a controller for our GameIt folder. So go ahead and right click on the controller folder, click on add, and click on controller. So let's navigate to MVC controller with views using entity framework. Click on it and click on add. Alright, let's go ahead and select the model class, which is GameIt, and then we can select the application DB context. Having done this, go ahead and click on add. Okay, so our GameIt controller is up and ready, has been scaffolded with the necessary codes and views needed for it to work. So we have some dependency injection over here. We have a private read-only field for our application DB context and that of our user manager. So when we created the MVC scaffolding, to create a controller, it's actually created a CRUD operation for us, where we can create, read, update, and delete function with the delete functionalities needed for us to use. So, but in this stage, the only thing we need to add or configure into our controller is to add this field over here, which is the user manager, and then inside of the create, we are going to make use of our user manager right here, which is what we're going to do next. So right here inside of the create method of our Gameit controller, we have a variable of user. This is going to get or find the current user in session by the user's name. Alright, so having done that, we're going to now make use of our Gameit over here, which contains the details of what our Gameit class contains, which is the ID, game name, price, owner, address, key, and all that. So we're then passing it explicit or directly from our create controller, so we don't have to create it or type in any of those from the page or from the views itself. So we have gameit.gameOwner_address. This is going to get the user.address that we created when registering. We also have the same thing for key that we created when registering, and then gameit.gameOwnerName is going to get the username of the current user in session using the application. So after doing that, it's going to then add into our database, and then we have an await, and then making use of the context, saving the changes that we made, which will then take us back to the index view. That is what this return redirect to name of index means. So I'm just going to remove this binding over here, and then I will leave every other thing the way it is. So I'm going to go ahead and navigate into the create view. That's the page for the create. So right click on the method and then click on go to view. Okay, so right here in the view, it seems we have a little bit of an issue over here with the naming convention. The name of the project is Gameit, and the name of our model is also Gameit. Alright, let me go ahead and try imputing it again. Okay, so I just renamed it to add model.gameit, so I believe that will work for us. So having done that, let's go ahead and remove this three details over here, the game owner name, address, and the key, because it will be automatically generated or created from the controller. That is why we have this over here. So go ahead and save. Inside of the edit, I'm also going to do the same thing for the edits. Go to the view, and then I'm going to remove this tree. Okay, so this is where our focus is at the moment. All right. So we're going to actually start up the application, register, and then test it to see how it works. But before we do that, let's head over to the startup class and then get the name of this folder, which is Gameit. So we're going to set the routing to this Gameit, okay, slash index. This is capital T. Alright, so when we launch the application, we want it to take us to the Gameit controller slash index as the action name. So let's go ahead and do that. Go to debug and start without debugging. Okay, so I just canceled the build because we haven't run our migrations yet. So let's go ahead and quickly do that. I'm going to call this initial migration. Okay, so migration was added successfully. Let's go ahead and update the database. Okay, so let's give it a second. Okay, so our migration is done and completed. Let's go ahead and debug and start without debugging. Okay, so our application is up and running. Let's go ahead and register. Okay, so go ahead and use your email. Input your details and click on the register button. Okay, so we want this to take us to the game it. So this stage we can go ahead and create a new game. So we can enter the game name. I will name this Need for Speed, and then the price will be about 15 algos. Okay, so we encountered that error because of this. We did not make use of our user manager instead of our constructor. So let's go ahead and quickly do that to fix the problem, and then make use of the user manager. So this will contain the one with the underscore. Okay, so let's go ahead and build. Then back in the browser, let's refresh. Okay, so we can see our game, we can see the price, you can see the game owner name, the address, and then the game owner key. Mind you, this is for demo purposes, which is why I'm publicly displaying the game owner key right here. Likewise, the game owner address. If you are going to use this for production, I will advise you to never ever display your key or your mnemonic key publicly to others, because with your mnemonic key, one can get your mnemonic key and then make transactions with it. That is all that one needs to make transactions with your account, your mnemonic key. So try as much as possible to keep your mnemonic key private. The reason why I'm displaying this is because we're using this for demo purposes. In case this is your first time seeing how a mnemonic key is and an account address, this is how it looks like. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and log out and create another account. I'm going to register with another account. This is going to be Kuzu Consult 1. Enter the password. And then register. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new game with this second account, and I'm going to call this Need for Speed 2, and then this is going to be about 20 algos, and then create. So we can see the differences. This is the game owner address of the second account you just created, and then the mnemonic key of the second account also. So the next thing we're going to do is to make a button whereby one can buy a game from another person, and then funds will be deposited to the person who is selling the game. So back inside of our game it controller, I just added a new action results method called buy game, passing in an ID of the game we want to get, just similarly to how our details method looks like, but then this one is what actually contains the functionality of one buying a game. So we have an ID. If the ID is null, it should return a not found, and then this variable will get the game that we're trying to buy from its ID, from the game ID, and then if the ID or the game is not found, if it is null, then it's going to take us to a not found error page. So right here we have made a use of our variable called user, which we're then passing in the username of the current user in session trying to use the application. So here we have a string containing our Algorand API address. This is the host, and then we have our Algorand API token. This is the token. So right here we have an instance of our Algorand API passing in. Let's go ahead and add the namespace, which is using algorand.v2. Okay, so if we hover over it, the Algorand API, we can see what it is supposed to contain: a string of hosts and then a string of token. So this is the host, this link over here running on PureStick, and the testnet at the PureStick version 2, and then this is our token. So here we have a transaction parameter response. Let's go ahead and also add the using namespace, which is using algorand.v2.model. Okay, so we then have a try and catch exception over here, making use of our Algorand API instance to get the transaction parameters. Okay, right here we did not include it or pass it in directly over here, so which was why we made a try and catch in case we come across an error making use of the Algorand API instance of the transaction params. So right here we have an API exception error. Let's go ahead and add the namespace, which is using algorand.client. So if we catch an error, we want the error to return this particular error could not get params. Okay, so we have a string of key. This is a mnemonic key of the person trying to buy a game. Okay, remember I said with your mnemonic key you can make transactions, which is why I'm passing in the user.key that we made use of over here. So with this we're getting the user details, or the details of the current user in session. So we're then passing in the key into an instance of our account, and then for the receiver is going to be the the address of the game's owner, which is the owner of the game, the address of that owner. So right here we have variable algo, so I'm making use of the utils to get the amount. So this is going to be utils.microalgos .algos to microalgos, and then the price. We are passing in the price of the game. So let's also include the using statement, which is using Algorand. Okay, it seems we have using Algorand twice, I think. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this using statement using account equals Algorand.account. So we are actually encountering an error. It says cannot convert from string to double. Okay, so back inside of our gameits, right here we have a string of the price. So we're going to change that to an integer, and then hopefully this works. So this is going to be convert to int 32, and then we put this in the enclosing brackets. So with this we're clear with the error, so we just converted it to an integer from a string. So right here we have a variable making use of the utils.get transaction detail. Okay, so if you hover over this is what actually makes the whole payment possible. So we have get payment transaction, we have address from, so who we're transferring from, and then address to, which is the receiver in this case of the game, and then the amount, which is in algos over here, and then we have a string message. This is the message, and then our transaction params, which is what we have over here. That's our trans params. Right here we have a variable containing this the signed transaction containing the source.signed transaction, passing in this transaction that we're trying to make. So, and then we then have a try and catch exception in case we come across any error during the course of the transaction, when the transaction is in progress. So we have a variable ID making use of this utils.submit transaction. This submit transaction is passing in the Algorand API instance and the signed transaction we have. Okay, let me go ahead and close this. So, and then we have a console.writeLine which will then print out the success message that this transaction was successful. If there was an error, this is going to catch the error and then return an exception when calling Algorand raw transaction for us. So when it's finally done, it's going to return and take us back to the index view. Back in our browser, well, we are currently logged in as kuzoconsult1@gmail.com, and this is the game owner address. So if you notice, I have added some additional tabs that are open. So for this is the Algorand dispenser. This is what we'll use to dispense algos into our account address. So, and then right here we can search for an account address and see the details of the account address. So let's go ahead and paste in our account address. So we can see balance is 0, no transactions made yet. So let's go ahead and click on this checkbox and then fund the account address. Paste in the account address and then hit on the dispense button. So we have a code status 200, which means success. And then let's head back to the testnet Algo Explorer. Okay, so we can see our funds was successfully credited into the account address. So let's also copy the account address of the first user, which is kuzoconsult@gmail.com, and then paste in and search to get the details of that account address. We haven't funded it. We are not going to fund this account yet. We want the second user to buy game from this user so we can see how the transaction actually works. Okay, so back inside of our game's controller, I'm going to go ahead and copy this the name of this method, which is buy game, and then inside of the index method, right click on it and go to the view. Go to view, scroll down a little. So right here we have edit. Let's just add a new form containing the name of the method we want to call and use. So create a form and then ASP action, which is, oops, I just clicked on build. Let's cancel. So go ahead and paste the method name, which is buy game, and then pass in the controller name also, which is game eats. And then inside of the form, we're going to have a button which will say maybe payment or pay or buy game. Now let's name the button buy game. Okay, so let's also pass in the routes, that's the ID of the game. Go ahead and paste it right here. So let's just remove the controller since the method we're calling is inside the same controller with the index. So having done this, go ahead and debug the application and start it up again. Or we can just simply build. So our build was successful. Let's head back to the browser and refresh this page. Okay, so our website is up. So let's go ahead and proceed to buy game. Click on the buy game. Oh no, cancel. Let's cancel. We're trying to buy our own game. So let's go ahead and buy this game, which is the Kuzo Consult game. So click on the buy game button. Okay, so I believe the whole process is done. So let's head back to the accounts, and then we can see that we've actually been debited 15 algos for the game, which is about 15 also over here, and then this account should be credited. Right, so we can see that we have balances now of 15 algos about 31 seconds ago. Likewise this one. So this is basically all we wanted to do, and then we also want a user to be registered or logged in before making a transaction, or before being able to make a transaction. So back inside of the controller, just above the buy game, we are going to make it authorized, so that a user has to be registered to be able to create a game. So write this out and then add the namespace attached to the authorized. Let's go ahead and add the namespace, which is using Microsoft for ASP.NET Core authorization. So with this done, we have come to the end of this demo. Kuzu Consult is a blockchain consultancy firm based in Nigeria, and this is a presentation by Stephen Sunday and Seth Michael.